I faked a business trip, came home in the middle of the night, and what I saw, it shattered everything I believed about my marriage. I stood in front of my own house, gripping the key tightly. The apartment was dark, except for a dim light seeping through the crack of the bedroom door. My heart pounded in my chest, my breaths growing heavier. I had known this moment would come. I just never expected it to hurt this much. All the little signs, his late nights with no explanation, the hushed phone calls that ended the second I walked into the room, they had all led me here. But instead of confronting him the usual way, I had planned everything. I booked a fake flight, packed my bags, kissed him goodbye at the door, and even sent a text saying I had arrived safely at the airport. Then I turned my car around, switched off my phone, and silently came back home. And now, I was here, standing outside our bedroom, outside the place where he thought I would never return tonight. I took a deep breath, my fingers trembling as they tightened around the doorknob. I was ready to face the truth. I exhaled slowly, trying to steady my shaking hands. The weight of reality pressed down on me, heavier than I ever imagined. This was it, the moment of truth. I turned the doorknob ever so slightly, pushing the door open just a fraction. Enough to see. Enough to hear. Soft whispers. A low chuckle. The unmistakable rustling of sheets. My stomach twisted. I should have stormed in right then, screamed, ripped the covers off, and exposed them. But instead, I did something far worse. I waited. I stepped back into the darkness of the hallway, my breath shallow, my heartbeat hammering in my ears. I needed to see who she was, how long this had been going on, and most importantly, I needed to know what kind of man my husband really was when he thought no one was watching. I pulled out my phone, silently activating the recording app. Then I flicked on the lights. The reaction was instant. The woman shrieked, diving beneath the covers. My husband scrambled up, sheets wrapped around his waist, his face frozen in horror. "Well, well, well," I said, leaning against the doorframe. "Miss me, babe?" But before he could stammer out a pathetic excuse, before she could even lift her face from where she was hiding, my stomach dropped. I knew that voice. The woman gasped and slowly turned to face me, and in that moment, my world shattered in a way I never saw coming. She wasn't just some random woman, she was my best friend. At first I thought I was losing my mind. There wasn't anything obvious. No lipstick-stained collars, no unfamiliar perfume lingering on his clothes, no sudden outbursts of guilt-fueled affection. It was quieter than that, more insidious. A distance that hadn't been there before. Subtle, like a missing puzzle piece in a picture that once made perfect sense. It started with little things. The way he hesitated before answering my questions, the brief flashes of anxiety when his phone vibrated on the table, the once effortless conversations that now felt rehearsed, carefully crafted to avoid anything deeper than surface-level pleasantries. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was imagining things, that maybe we were just going through a rough patch. But then there was the hoodie. I found it buried at the bottom of the laundry hamper, as if it had been stuffed there deliberately. It wasn't mine, obviously. It was his. The old gray one I used to steal on cold nights. Except now it smelled wrong. A faint trace of vanilla and coconut, just subtle enough that I almost ignored it. But something about it made my skin prickle. He hadn't worn that hoodie in months. So why did it smell like someone else? That night, as we lay in bed, I inhaled deeply, trying to catch the scent on his skin, but all I could smell was his usual aftershave. My stomach twisted. Maybe it was just detergent from the gym. Maybe I was overreacting, but that nagging feeling wouldn't leave. So I started watching. I paid attention to the way he moved, the way he touched his phone, the way his mood seemed lighter when he read certain messages. I made mental notes of his schedule, where he said he'd be, and when. I memorized the details he gave me, looking for inconsistencies. And sure enough, I started finding them. A late meeting that didn't match up with his calendar. A charge on our credit card from a restaurant I'd never been to. A small, fleeting look of panic when I casually mentioned that I might drop by his office for lunch. I thought I was on to him. Until suddenly I wasn't. Almost overnight, the suspicious behavior disappeared. His phone was no longer glued to his hand. His alibis lined up perfectly. The tension in his shoulders melted away, replaced with the easy confidence he used to have. He became affectionate again, cracking stupid jokes, kissing my forehead before bed, cooking my favorite meals on Sundays. It was as if the past few months had been a figment of my imagination, and I believed it. I wanted to believe it. Maybe I had been stressed from work. Maybe my paranoia had created problems that weren't there, and maybe my marriage was fine. and I was the one ruining it with my baseless suspicions. I hated the idea that I had let doubt seep into something sacred, that I had been so ready to see a betrayal that I had started inventing one. So, I let it go. For a while, I let myself sink back into the comfort of our routine, ignoring the tiny voice in the back of my mind whispering, "Something isn't right." I told myself it was an anxiety, that I needed to stop looking for cracks in something that wasn't broken, and for a brief moment, I was happy. Then it happened. I had left work early that day, something I never did. I was supposed to be stuck in back-to-back meetings, but a last-minute cancellation gave me the rare chance to go home before him. I was thinking about what to cook for dinner when I saw his car in the driveway. My heart skipped a beat. He wasn't supposed to be home. 1,000 excuses ran through my mind. Maybe he was sick. Maybe he left work early, too. But as I stepped closer, I noticed something odd. His car was still running. The driver's seat was empty. The passenger door was slightly open. And there, on the ground beside it, was a woman's earring. Not mine. My breath hitched. A cold, sinking feeling settled in my gut. I bent down, picking it up with trembling fingers. The gold shimmered in the fading sunlight, delicate, unfamiliar. The weight of certainty hit me all at once. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. He had just gotten better at hiding it. That night I didn't say a word. I went through our usual routine like nothing had happened, my face a careful mask of normalcy. I let him kiss my cheek, let him laugh at some stupid TV show, let him fall asleep beside me without a clue that I was wide awake, staring at the ceiling, planning. The next morning I booked my trip. A conference in another state. 3 days, flights, hotel reservations, scheduled meetings, all meticulously planned and entirely fake. I made sure he saw the itinerary. I left my suitcase half-packed where he could notice it. I even let out an exaggerated sigh over breakfast, complaining about how exhausting the trip would be. And when the day came, I kissed him goodbye, told him I'd call when I landed, and walked out the door. Except I never got on that plane. Instead, I drove to a coffee shop a few miles away and waited. An hour passed, then 2. Then my phone buzzed with a text. Him. "Miss you already, babe. Have a great trip. Call me when you land. Love you." My stomach twisted as I stared at the screen. He had no idea. No idea that I was parked less than a mile away. No idea that in just a few hours I would be standing in the doorway of our bedroom watching as the truth unraveled before my very eyes. I turned off my phone, started the car, and drove home. I pulled into the driveway, heart hammering against my ribs. The house looked the same as I had left it. Calm, undisturbed, ordinary. But I knew better. I had learned that the most dangerous lies were the ones buried beneath a perfect surface. For a moment I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, forcing myself to breathe. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment where the truth would be laid bare. But for the first time, a small, terrified voice in my head whispered, "What if I'm wrong?" I shook the thought away. I wasn't wrong. With slow, deliberate movements, I turned off the engine, stepped out of the car, and crept toward the front door. The house was eerily silent, but a faint glow from the bedroom seeped under the door frame. My hands trembled as I reached for the handle. The door wasn't locked. Soft whispers. Low, muffled laughter. A giggle. A woman's giggle. The second the door swung open, chaos erupted. She shrieked, yanking the sheets up to cover herself. He jolted upright, eyes wide with panic, mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. For a few precious seconds, they were frozen in sheer terror like children caught stealing candy. "What are you doing here?" he stammered, scrambling for his boxers. I let out a hollow laugh. "Oh, I don't know. Maybe because I live here?" Her voice trembled. "Oh, come on. You're really going to use that line? That's so original." "Oh, really?" "'Cause from where I'm standing, it looks like a damn cliché. My best friend, my husband, in my bed." But as the seconds ticked by, the fear in their eyes shifted. First it was hesitation, then amusement, and finally mockery. He smirked, crossing his arms. "Well, it's not like you've been much of a wife lately." My stomach dropped. "Excuse me?" My so-called best friend let out a laugh, flipping her hair like this was some kind of joke. "Oh, please, don't look so shocked. You were always boring. No wonder he needed some fun." The rage that surged through me was blinding. I turned, storming out of the room, but not before grabbing his wallet, his keys, and his phone. If they wanted to be together so badly, fine. They could do it outside. I marched to the front door, swung it open, and hurled his belongings into the yard. "Get the hell out of my house." He scoffed. "Are you freaking kidding me right now?" I met his gaze, voice steady. "Oh, I mean it. 100% dead serious. Get the hell out." And with that, I turned and slammed the door in their faces. And that was when I realized I had just walked in on the moment that changed my life forever. I should have felt relief. I should have felt empowered, victorious even. But I didn't. Instead, I stood in the empty house, our house, and felt a crushing weight settle in my chest. How did I let it get this far? And then, like pieces of a puzzle snapping into place, the memories flooded back. From the moment I married him, I had been nothing more than an obedient wife, blindly following his rules. I never questioned why he never gave me money despite earning well. I thought it was respect, just as he claimed. I never asked why I had to shoulder all the housework alone. It was just the way things were. But now, standing in the wreckage of my broken marriage, I finally saw the truth. I had been nothing but a pawn. Determined to reclaim my life, I started working again. I earned my own money and stopped living under his shadow. But my ordeal was far from over. As if betraying me wasn't enough, my husband and his mistress decided to move in together. And they rented an apartment disturbingly close to mine, taunting me with their presence. One day, as I was walking home from work, I saw them outside their building. She clung to his arm, whispering something in his ear before laughing loudly, casting a smug glance in my direction. My husband smirked, his eyes filled with arrogance. "Still bitter, darling," he taunted. "You should move on. Not everyone is meant to be loved forever." I clenched my fists but refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. Instead, I smiled. "You're right. Not everyone is meant to be loved forever. Some people are meant to be used and discarded." His smirk faltered for just a moment, but she quickly tightened her grip on his arm, pulling him inside before he could respond. As fate would have it, karma was already setting its course. A few weeks later, I discovered a shocking truth. My so-called best friend wasn't just involved with my husband. She was also a sugar baby, entertaining multiple wealthy men. Some of them even visited when my husband was away. She had no shame, no remorse. One evening, when I accidentally ran into her outside a cafe, she sneered at me. "Why do you still care so much?" she scoffed. "He doesn't love you. He never did. And even if he finds out about my other hobbies, do you really think he'd believe you?" I held her gaze steadily. Maybe not. But truth has a funny way of revealing itself. She laughed mockingly and walked away, flipping her hair over her shoulder. Little did she know, her luck was running out. One of her many lovers turned out to be none other than my husband's biggest business rival. When he discovered their affair, he saw an opportunity. Playing along with her flirtations, he managed to get close to her. One evening, after she had fallen asleep, he stealthily entered my husband's office and found what he was looking for: confidential documents regarding an upcoming major contract negotiation. Without hesitation, he took photos of everything before slipping out of the apartment unnoticed. Days later, disaster struck. My husband, expecting to secure the deal that would elevate his career, was blindsided when his rival swooped in and stole it from right under his nose. He was furious, pacing his office as he tried to understand what had happened. When he finally pieced it together, realization dawned on him like a slap to the face. Storming into the shared apartment, he found her lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone as if nothing had happened. "You," he growled, his voice trembling with anger. "You did this to me." She barely spared him a glance. "What are you talking about?" He grabbed her wrist, yanking her up to face him. "You let another man into my office, my rival. He stole my deal." Her eyes widened for a split second before she scoffed. "Oh, please. Don't act like you didn't know what kind of woman I am. You thought I'd be loyal? Don't make me laugh." His fury exploded. In one swift motion, he shoved her back, his face red with rage. "Get out! Get the hell out of my house!" She stumbled but quickly regained her balance, glaring at him. "Fine, I never wanted to stay with a loser anyway." She grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. He stood there breathing heavily, his world crumbling around him. I ran into him weeks later, outside a coffee shop. He looked like hell. Dark circles under his eyes. His once pressed suit wrinkled and cheap. A man who had lost everything and knew it. "What?" I asked, tilting my head. "No expensive suits? No flashy car? No smug little grin?" He clenched his jaw. You ruined me. I took a slow sip of my coffee, then smiled. No, babe. You did this all by yourself. I just sat back and watched the fireworks. Then I walked away. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Betrayal's never just about one act. It's a slow, creeping poison, a series of tiny injustices that, when strung together, form an unbreakable chain of destruction. My husband's affair wasn't the first betrayal. It was simply the final one. For years I ignored the small red flags, excusing them as quirks, as misunderstandings, as normal parts of a marriage. I convinced myself that love meant patience, that partnership meant compromise, and that trust meant never questioning. But what I failed to realize was that love without respect is just a slow, silent surrender. And I had been surrendering for years. I surrendered when I let him make me feel guilty for asking about money. I surrendered when I worked 2 jobs while still coming home to cook, clean, and manage everything while he sat back and called himself the provider. I surrendered when I let him convince me that asking for help made me demanding, that wanting equality made me ungrateful, that doubting his intentions made me paranoid. By the time I found out about the affair, I had already lost myself. That's the true cost of manipulation. It doesn't just take away what you have. It makes you forget that you deserve more. But here's the thing about losing yourself. Once you find your way back, you become someone unstoppable. People like my husband don't change. They adapt. If his mistress hadn't betrayed him, he would have found someone else. He would have built another life on the same foundation of deceit, convincing another woman that he was the prize while slowly stripping her of her own worth. That's what manipulators do. But me? I changed. I rebuilt my life from the ground up. I stopped settling for crumbs when they deserved the whole damn feast. I learned that leaving isn't just about walking away from a person. It's about walking away from the version of yourself that tolerated them in the first place. And I will never be that woman again. So if you're reading this, if you're stuck in a situation that feels off, if your gut is whispering to you that something isn't right, listen to it. Because the truth has a way of revealing itself. And when it does, make sure you're standing on the right side of it.